inside America's most notorious federal prison. Behind these towering stone walls, some of America's most infamous federal prisoners disappeared from public view. But the greatest mystery was never who entered USP Leavenworth. It was how this legendary prison changed the history of federal corrections forever. The first thing most people notice about USP Leavenworth is not the razor wire. It is the silence. Standing on a hill overlooking the city of Leavenworth, Kansas, the massive limestone walls have dominated the landscape for more than a century. Long before modern supermax prisons existed, this institution represented the highest level of federal incarceration in the United States. For generations, its name carried enormous weight. Judges mentioned it in courtrooms. Law enforcement officers spoke about it with respect. Newspaper headlines connected it to some of the nation's most well-known criminal cases. Unlike many prisons built far from civilization, USP Leavenworth stands just minutes from neighborhoods, schools, and businesses. Residents have grown accustomed to seeing the enormous walls rising above the surrounding streets, a constant reminder of one of America's oldest federal correctional institutions. Completed in the early 20th century, the prison was designed using ideas that were considered modern for its time. Inspired by military fortifications, the structure featured thick stone walls, secure housing units, carefully monitored corridors, and extensive guard positions. The design reflected a simple philosophy: security first, everything else second. As the federal government expanded during the 20th century, so did the prison's importance. Federal investigators from across the country sent convicted offenders here after lengthy court proceedings. Unlike local jails, which often held individuals awaiting trial, USP Leavenworth housed inmates serving lengthy federal sentences following conviction in United States district courts. The prison quickly became associated with organized crime figures, bank robbers, kidnappers, public corruption cases, and other major federal offenses. Its reputation spread across America. Movies referenced it. Books mentioned it. Journalists described it as one of the country's most recognizable prisons. Yet surprisingly few people ever saw what happened behind its walls. Every morning began with structure. Correctional officers reported for duty before sunrise. Security equipment was inspected. Housing units conducted formal inmate counts. Movement schedules were reviewed. Control rooms confirmed communication systems. Every officer understood that consistency formed the foundation of institutional safety. Unlike dramatic portrayals often shown in fiction, daily life inside a federal prison depends largely on routine. Predictable schedules reduce confusion. Clear procedures reduce risk. Professional communication helps maintain order. The prison itself functioned almost like a carefully engineered machine. Every hallway served a purpose. Every locked gate created another layer of security. Every movement required authorization. Even routine activities followed strict procedures established by the Federal Bureau of Prisons. For inmates, life became highly structured. Meals followed scheduled times. Work assignments began at designated hours. Educational opportunities operated under supervision. Medical appointments followed carefully coordinated security procedures. Visits occurred under established regulations. Every part of the day reflected organization. That organization extended far beyond the prison walls. Federal marshals transported newly sentenced inmates from courthouses across the country. Each arrival involved extensive documentation, identity verification, medical screening, property inventory, security classification. Only after completing numerous intake procedures would an inmate receive housing assignments appropriate to institutional requirements. Correction professionals refer to this as classification. It determines where inmates live, what programs they may access, and what level of supervision is necessary. Classification constantly evolves as inmates demonstrate positive behavior, complete programs, or experience changes affecting institutional management. Maintaining safety inside such a large federal institution requires cooperation among many professionals. Correctional officers supervise housing units. Medical staff provide health care. Teachers oversee educational programs. Psychologists conduct assessments. Case managers coordinate release planning. Maintenance personnel ensure critical infrastructure continues operating. Behind every secure prison stands hundreds of employees performing specialized responsibilities. Outside observers often focus only on inmates, but a prison cannot function without its staff. Many employees dedicate entire careers to institutions like Leavenworth. Some families have multiple generations working within the federal correctional system. Experience becomes invaluable. Veteran officers often mentor younger employees, teaching them communication skills, observation techniques, and conflict prevention strategies developed through years of professional service. Technology has changed significantly over the decades. Early correctional officers relied heavily on physical observation. Today, surveillance cameras monitored numerous locations simultaneously. Electronic locking systems improve security. Digital records enhance inmate management. Communication equipment allows faster coordination between housing units and command centers. Despite these advances, experienced officers often say technology supports good judgment rather than replacing it. Professional decision-making remains essential. The prison's historic architecture presents unique challenges. Buildings constructed more than 100 years ago require continuous maintenance. Engineers inspect aging infrastructure. Construction teams modernize essential systems while preserving secure operations. Every improvement must balance historical preservation with modern correctional standards. Meanwhile, beyond the walls, public perception continues evolving. Some view Leavenworth primarily through famous criminal cases. Others see it as an important chapter in American correctional history. Researchers examine its influence on federal prison policy. Historians document its role in shaping the nation's correctional system. But few realize that Leavenworth's greatest legacy is not simply the prisoners it housed. It is the evolution of the entire federal prison system. The institution became a testing ground for new correctional practices, inmate management strategies, educational programs, and security procedures that influenced facilities across the country. Its history mirrors the changing philosophy of American corrections. Yet beneath decades of careful routine, professional discipline, and historic significance remained a question that correctional experts continued asking. Could one prison remain effective while the entire federal correctional system around it continued changing? That question would become increasingly important as newer, more specialized institutions emerged across the United States. And before long, USP Leavenworth would face challenges unlike anything imagined when its massive stone walls first rose above the Kansas plains. For decades, USP Leavenworth stood as one of the most recognizable federal prisons in America. Its towering limestone walls symbolize strength, discipline, and permanence. But as the 20th century progressed, the federal correctional system began to change in ways no one could have predicted. New challenges demanded new solutions. The Federal Bureau of Prisons expanded rapidly as the federal population increased. Modern correctional facilities opened across the country, each designed with updated security features, improved housing units, and specialized programs for different inmate populations. Facilities were no longer expected to serve every purpose. Instead, inmates were assigned according to carefully developed security classifications. Some institutions focused on rehabilitation. Others emphasized education. A few were designed for the highest security federal offenders. USP Leavenworth remained an important part of this evolving system, but its role gradually shifted. Rather than relying solely on history and reputation, the institution adapted to meet modern correctional standards while continuing to operate within its historic structure. Inside the prison, every day continued to follow a carefully planned routine. Before dawn, correctional officers reported for duty. Housing units completed official inmate counts. Control rooms monitored surveillance systems. Maintenance teams inspected essential equipment. Medical personnel prepared clinics for scheduled appointments. The entire institution depended on coordination. One delayed movement could affect dozens of others. Timing mattered. Communication mattered even more. Unlike dramatic portrayals often shown in television programs, experienced correctional professionals understand that preventing problems is far more effective than responding to them. Observation is one of their most valuable tools. Officers constantly monitor behavior, looking for small changes that may indicate tension, medical concerns, or institutional issues. Most days pass quietly. That quiet is often the result of preparation rather than luck. Professional correctional officers receive extensive training in communication, crisis management, emergency response, and institutional procedures. Their work requires patience, consistency, and sound judgment. Many officers spend decades developing these skills. Veteran employees often become mentors for newer staff members, passing along practical experience that cannot be learned from manuals alone. Technology has transformed many aspects of prison operations. Electronic locking systems provide greater control over inmate movement. Digital databases improve record keeping. Modern surveillance equipment allows security staff to monitor multiple locations simultaneously. Communication systems connect housing units with central command almost instantly. Yet experienced administrators often emphasize one important fact. Technology assists people. It does not replace them. Professional judgment remains the foundation of institutional safety. Healthcare has also become an increasingly important part of correctional operations. Every inmate entering a federal prison receives medical screening. Doctors, nurses, mental health professionals, dentists, and pharmacists work together to provide healthcare services throughout incarceration. Many inmates arrive with chronic medical conditions. Others require ongoing mental health treatment. Providing healthcare inside a secure institution requires close cooperation between medical staff and correctional officers. Privacy, safety, and security must all be carefully balanced. Education remains another important component of federal corrections. Many inmates participate in literacy classes, vocational training, or educational programs designed to improve employment opportunities after release. Libraries provide access to reading materials within institutional regulations. Some inmates pursue correspondence courses or other approved educational opportunities. These programs reflect a broader correctional philosophy. Security remains the first priority. But preparation for successful reentry can also reduce future criminal behavior. Employment assignments help support institutional operations. Some inmates work in food services. Others assist with facility maintenance. Laundry services, cleaning crews, and other institutional jobs provide opportunities to develop workplace skills while contributing to the daily functioning of the prison. Every assignment operates under careful supervision. Outside the prison, historians continued documenting Leavenworth's remarkable past. Its walls had witnessed more than a century of American correctional history. During that time, thousands of individuals had entered through its secure gates. Some eventually completed their sentences and returned to society. Others spent decades within the institution. Throughout changing administrations, evolving laws, and shifting correctional philosophies, the prison remained in continuous operation. But history alone could not determine its future. Across the federal prison system, newly constructed facilities offered advantages difficult for older institutions to match. Modern buildings provided updated infrastructure. Housing units reflected contemporary correctional design. Security technology continued improving. New institutions could incorporate lessons learned from decades of correctional experience. Historic prisons like Leavenworth required ongoing renovation simply to maintain existing operations. Engineers constantly evaluated aging buildings. Construction crews upgraded electrical systems, plumbing, communications equipment, and security infrastructure. Every project required careful planning to avoid disrupting institutional safety. The prison's historic status added another layer of complexity. Preserving important architectural features while modernizing essential systems demanded specialized expertise. At the same time, correctional research continued evolving. Experts studied inmate behavior. Psychologists examined the effects of incarceration. Administrators analyzed operational efficiency. Lawmakers reviewed sentencing policies. The federal correctional system became increasingly influenced by research, data, and evidence-based practices. Leavenworth participated in that evolution. Its staff adapted to new policies. Training programs expanded. Professional standards continued improving. Although its reputation had been built over generations, its daily mission remained remarkably consistent. Protect staff. Maintain security. Operate professionally. Treat everyone according to established federal policies. These principles guided every shift. Yet, as newer institutions assumed specialized roles within the Federal Bureau of Prisons, an important question emerged. If Leavenworth was no longer the nation's newest or most technologically advanced federal prison, what role would it play in the future? Would history alone preserve its importance? Or would the institution continue finding new ways to serve an evolving correctional system? The answer would become clear only as another generation of change approached, bringing new policies, new expectations, and new challenges that would once again reshape one of America's most historic federal prisons. For more than a century, the stone walls of USP Leavenworth have remained a familiar landmark on the Kansas horizon. Generations have come and gone. Correctional officers have retired after decades of service. Wardens have introduced new policies. Federal laws have changed. Technology has advanced beyond anything imagined when the prison first opened. Yet the institution continues to stand as one of the most recognizable names in American correctional history. Its story is larger than any single inmate, larger than any famous criminal case. It is ultimately the story of how the United States built, managed, and continually reformed its federal prison system. As the 21st century continues, correctional professionals face challenges that did not exist when Leavenworth welcomed its first inmates. Cybercrime, financial fraud spanning multiple countries, organized criminal networks operating across digital platforms. New forms of federal crime require constant adaptation by investigators, prosecutors, courts, and correctional institutions. The Federal Bureau of Prisons has evolved alongside these changes. Classification systems have become more sophisticated. Risk assessments now consider numerous factors beyond offense history alone. Individual needs, institutional behavior, medical conditions, educational background, and security requirements all influence inmate placement. Every assignment is carefully evaluated. Inside Leavenworth, daily life still follows a familiar rhythm. Morning counts begin each day. Housing units prepare for scheduled movement. Medical appointments continue. Educational programs open their classrooms. Work assignments begin under staff supervision. Meals are prepared and served according to carefully coordinated schedules. Each activity depends on teamwork. Correctional officers communicate constantly with supervisors. Medical personnel coordinate patient care. Case managers review inmate progress. Maintenance employees keep critical systems operating safely. Every department contributes to institutional stability. Visitors often imagine prisons as places defined only by confinement. Those who work inside understand that successful correctional institutions depend just as much on organization, planning, professionalism, consistency. Every locked door has a purpose. Every security procedure exists because someone, somewhere, learned an important lesson from the past. Modern correctional philosophy places increasing emphasis on preparation for successful reentry whenever appropriate. Many federal inmates eventually complete their sentences and return to their communities. Educational opportunities, vocational training, counseling services, and structured programming help prepare eligible individuals for that transition. Research has shown that stable employment, education, and community support can reduce the likelihood of future criminal behavior. Security remains the foundation, but preparation for life after incarceration has become an important part of modern corrections. For inmates serving lengthy sentences, daily routine provides structure. For staff, routine creates predictability. Predictability helps maintain safety. Professional correctional officers often describe their work as balancing firmness with fairness. Rules must be enforced consistently. Communication must remain respectful. Every decision can affect institutional stability. It is a profession requiring patience, judgment, and emotional discipline. Outside the prison, historians continue documenting Leavenworth's remarkable influence. Many of the correctional practices first refined here helped shape policies adopted throughout the federal prison system. Researchers study its architecture. Criminal justice students analyze its operational history. Law enforcement professionals recognize its role in federal corrections. Although newer institutions now house many specialized inmate populations, Leavenworth remains an important chapter in that continuing story. Its historic limestone walls have witnessed enormous change. They have seen America through world wars, economic crises, civil rights movements, technological revolutions, and major criminal justice reforms. Few government institutions have operated continuously through so many different eras. That longevity carries valuable lessons. Correctional systems must evolve. Public expectations change. Legal standards develop. Professional training improves. Institutions that endure are those willing to adapt while preserving their core mission. Today, transparency has become increasingly important. Independent oversight, professional inspections, accreditation standards, public reporting. These measures help ensure accountability while supporting safe correctional operations. Modern corrections recognizes that public confidence depends not only on security, but also on professionalism and responsible management. Looking ahead, the future of federal corrections will likely continue emphasizing technology, evidence-based practices, mental health services, educational opportunities, and institutional safety. Artificial intelligence may assist with administrative tasks. Improved healthcare technologies may enhance inmate treatment. Security systems will continue advancing. Yet experienced professionals often point to one enduring truth. No technology replaces integrity. No computer replaces sound judgment. No automated system replaces well-trained people committed to doing their jobs professionally. That lesson has remained constant throughout Leavenworth's history. As evening settles over Kansas, the prison once again grows quiet. Lights illuminate the historic stone buildings. Security staff continue monitoring the institution. Housing units complete evening counts. Medical personnel remain available throughout the night. Control rooms continue operating without interruption. Outside the walls, traffic moves through nearby neighborhoods. Families gather for dinner. Children play in local parks. Life continues, largely unaware of the carefully coordinated work taking place inside one of America's oldest federal prisons. For many people, Leavenworth is simply a famous name. For historians, it represents an important milestone in correctional history. For correctional professionals, it stands as a reminder of the responsibility carried by every federal institution entrusted with public safety. Its story is not one of constant drama. It is one of steady evolution, professional service, institutional discipline, and the continuing effort to balance security, accountability, and fairness within one of the nation's oldest correctional systems. Perhaps that explains why USP Leavenworth continues capturing public attention after more than 100 years. Not because of sensational stories, but because it reflects something much larger: the ongoing evolution of justice itself. Long after individual inmates complete their sentences, long after officers retire, and long after new facilities reshape the federal prison system, the legacy of USP Leavenworth will remain part of American correctional history. Its limestone walls may symbolize the past, but the lessons learned inside them continue shaping the future of federal corrections.